I watched a bulldozer crush my lakefront mansion while the HOA president smiled calmly. Sipping champagne like destruction was entertainment designed specifically for me. Barefoot, half-dressed, I stood frozen in my driveway watching strangers erase decades of memories, each crashing beam echoing louder than anything inside my chest. The boathouse wasn't just wood and nails. It held my grandfather's legacy and my late wife's laughter carved permanently into its aging frame. My crime was simple, ridiculous even. I owed the HOA exactly $300. Somehow that tiny debt justified this massive destruction. Vivica Drummond stood nearby, recording everything, her expression cold, calculated, enjoying every second like she had waited years for this moment. She wanted me broken, humiliated, reduced to nothing. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't just another homeowner in her controlled neighborhood. I owned something far bigger, something buried deep in old paperwork, something my grandfather left behind like a loaded weapon, waiting patiently. My name is Maxwell Cordell, a retired structural engineer who once designed towers strong enough to survive hurricanes and disasters without collapsing. After selling my patents, I planned a peaceful life, but losing my wife changed everything, leaving silence that echoed louder than any storm. 18 months of watching her fade taught me patience, pain, and how fragile everything truly is. Even the strongest foundations eventually crack, and my grandfather passed away, leaving me the lake house, telling me it would take care of me if I respected it properly. The property was beautiful, nearly 3 acres of waterfront, built decades ago with hands that valued effort more than profit or shortcuts. I moved there hoping to heal, restoring everything carefully, preserving memories instead of replacing them, especially the boathouse filled with history. I spent months rebuilding it exactly as it was, every beam reinforced, every detail matched, honoring the past rather than modernizing it. That place became my therapy. Mornings filled with quiet water, distant sounds, memories that hurt, but somehow also kept me grounded. What I didn't realize was the neighborhood had changed completely. It's filled with new homes, new rules, and people obsessed with control and perfection. A homeowners association had taken over everything, enforcing rules that valued uniformity over individuality, turning community into something rigid and suffocating. My grandfather had signed something years ago, something small at the time, but it connected my property to their system permanently. That signature came with consequences, unpaid fees, penalties, and fines, stacking quietly over years until they became something impossible to ignore. The first letter I received demanded payment and compliance. But it wasn't just about money. It was about control and submission. Vivica enforced rules like laws, smiling while issuing threats disguised as official notices, each word carefully designed to intimidate and pressure. I tried handling things calmly, calling, asking questions, offering solutions, but silence and delay were their preferred tactics to build tension. Eventually I met her face to face, and everything about her screamed authority, control, and enjoyment in holding power over others. She explained the debt, the penalties, the consequences, and her tone made it clear she wasn't interested in fairness or understanding. Payment plans came with ridiculous interest. Legal threats followed quickly, and every option felt like a trap designed to benefit them only. Soon notices appeared on my door, bright and humiliating, visible to neighbors, turning private issues into public embarrassment intentionally. That's when I learned others had suffered too. Families pushed out over small debts, homes taken, lives disrupted, without hesitation. Fear spread through the neighborhood quietly, people complying not because they agreed, but because they didn't want to become targets. That night, I searched through my grandfather's old files, hoping to understand what he had left behind beyond memories and stories. Hidden among documents, I found something strange, a deed mentioning far more land than my property alone could possibly include. It referenced 42 acres. It's a number that didn't match anything I understood about the current neighborhood layout or ownership structure. Confused but curious, I dug deeper, realizing my grandfather had been involved in something much larger than a single home. Old photographs showed him with developers, plans, and land agreements, suggesting he once controlled the entire area before it changed. That discovery shifted everything, turning confusion into determination. Because if this was true, then the power dynamic wasn't what it seemed. I needed proof, real proof, not assumptions, So I decided to visit the county records office, despite the long drive ahead. The building was old, quiet, filled with decades of forgotten documents. But inside, it held answers that could change everything permanently. A kind clerk helped me access records, and slowly, the truth began revealing itself through faded documents and forgotten filings. My grandfather had indeed owned everything, the entire development, and never fully transferred ownership the way people assumed he had. Instead, he created a system of leases, allowing others to build while retaining ultimate ownership of the land beneath their homes. That meant something powerful, something explosive, because legally, the HOA didn't actually own the land they controlled so aggressively. Even worse, their clubhouse, roads, and shared spaces were built on land that technically still belonged to my family trust. They had been operating under false assumptions, collecting money, enforcing rules, and acting like owners when they were not. The realization hit me like a wave, sudden, overwhelming, and filled with potential that could either fix everything or destroy it further. When I returned home, demolition notices were already placed, and the HOA had scheduled destruction of my boathouse within days. Despite everything I learned, I wasn't ready yet to stop them, and I watched helplessly as machines finished what they started. The sound of destruction echoed again, final this time, leaving nothing but debris and silence where memories once stood proudly. Vivica watched again, smiling, recording, completely unaware that her victory was built on a misunderstanding that would soon unravel completely. I didn't react emotionally this time, because now I had something stronger than anger. I had knowledge, and knowledge changes everything. Over the next days, I worked relentlessly, gathering evidence, hiring professionals, and confirming every detail of what I had discovered. A surveyor mapped everything precisely, showing boundaries that proved multiple homes, including Vivica's, were partially built on my land. The clubhouse, the pool, the roads, all of it overlapped into property legally tied to my family trust without proper authorization. That meant leverage, real leverage, not threats or intimidation, but legal power supported by documented evidence and decades-old filings. I didn't want revenge alone. I wanted justice, something that corrected the imbalance without destroying innocent families living there. With help from my daughter, we organized everything: documents, timelines, financial records, building a case stronger than anything they expected. We discovered financial misconduct too, funds misused, payments hidden, and transactions that suggested more than simple mismanagement. The HOA wasn't just strict, it was corrupt, using authority to benefit a few while exploiting everyone else quietly. That changed my plan completely, because exposing corruption would protect others while ensuring accountability reached those responsible for abuse. I hired a lawyer, explained everything, and she confirmed what I suspected. This case could dismantle the entire system legally. Lawsuits were prepared carefully, targeting the HOA's authority rather than the homeowners, ensuring the community itself wouldn't suffer unnecessarily. At the same time, we informed residents, explaining the truth, showing evidence, and offering an alternative that benefited everyone fairly. Support grew quickly, because people were tired of fear, tired of control, and ready to understand what was really happening around them. Vivica responded aggressively, denying everything, attempting intimidation, and spreading misinformation to protect her position and influence. But cracks were forming, questions were being asked, and people began seeing her leadership differently as more facts emerged publicly. Financial records exposed suspicious payments, connections to shell companies, and clear signs of systematic abuse over several years. Authorities became involved, investigations started, and suddenly the situation shifted from neighborhood dispute to potential criminal case. The pressure mounted quickly, and Vivica's confidence started fading, replaced by desperation and increasingly reckless decisions. Attempts to intimidate me escalated from blocking my driveway to damaging property, but every action only strengthened my case further. Evidence piled up, and soon even those who once supported her began stepping back. Unwilling to defend something clearly wrong, a public hearing was scheduled, giving everyone a chance to present facts. And I knew this would be the turning point. Standing there, I presented everything calmly: the land ownership, the trust, the financial misconduct, and the destruction of my property. The room shifted as people realized the truth. not rumors or accusations, but documented reality supported by undeniable evidence. Viveka tried defending herself, but under pressure. Her statements contradicted records, and her confidence collapsed in front of everyone. Officials reviewed everything carefully, and within minutes, decisions were made that would permanently change the future of the community. The HOA was placed under control, investigations continued, and financial accounts were frozen to prevent further misuse. More importantly, residents were given an alternative, a fair system that removed unnecessary control while maintaining stability for everyone involved. Support for the new plan was overwhelming, because people wanted fairness, not authority, community, not control. Viveka's influence disappeared quickly, replaced by accountability, legal consequences, and a reality she'd never expected to face. Charges followed soon after, confirming what we uncovered, and the system she built began collapsing piece by piece. Meanwhile, the community started rebuilding itself, not just physically, but emotionally, restoring trust that had been broken for years. My boathouse was rebuilt too, not just by me, but by neighbors who once feared speaking out, now working together. That moment meant more than anything, because it proved the community my grandfather envisioned still existed beneath everything that happened. The lake felt peaceful again, not because problems disappeared, but because they were faced and resolved instead of ignored. My daughter stayed longer, helping organize everything, bringing structure and clarity where chaos once dominated daily life. Slowly, life returned to something resembling normal, but stronger, more connected, and far less controlled by unnecessary rules. The trust ensured fairness. The system encouraged cooperation, and the community became something people actually wanted to be part of. Looking back, it wasn't just about revenge or justice. It was about correcting something that had gone wrong quietly over time. My grandfather's legacy wasn't just the land. It was the idea behind it. Community built on respect instead of control. That idea survived everything, even destruction, corruption, and fear, proving that strong foundations go beyond physical structures. Viveka thought she controlled everything, but she misunderstood the most important rule. Real power comes from truth, not authority. And once the truth came out, everything she built on false assumptions collapsed faster than any structure ever could. I sit by the lake, watching sunsets, hearing familiar sounds, and knowing that something meaningful was protected successfully. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but it was worth every moment, because some things deserve to be fought for properly. The community thrives again, not perfectly, but honestly, and that matters more than anything polished or controlled artificially. Sometimes the biggest battles aren't about winning, but about restoring what should have never been taken in the first place. And sometimes the quietest people become the strongest when pushed far enough to stand for what truly matters. So if you ever face something like this, remember, truth, patience, and persistence can dismantle even the strongest systems built on lies.